everyone, this is Brett from Love Bats in the Belfry. I'm here to do a pretty short video today. Just recently, me and Kelly went back and rewatched The Evil Dead from 2013, and it's been a long time since I've seen it. I think it's probably since it first came out that I first saw it. So both of us wanted to revisit it and see if our opinions changed on it at all, and sometimes that can happen. So I just decided let's do a video on revisiting Evil Dead from 2013. So most of my feelings have kind of kept the same towards this movie. This movie, it did get some praise, but it did get a lot of hate from a lot of its fans, or fans of the Evil Dead series in general. I would say merely because there is no Ash character in the Evil Dead 2013. So a lot of this movie takes place, the character of Mia, she is pretty much an addict and has done drugs for a long time. So her and four of her friends, one including her brother, go out to a cabin in the middle of the woods, and they decide, we're gonna detox her and get her just completely clean of drugs. But you get kind of a bigger problem when you go out there, because there's the Necronomicon is in the woods in this cabin, and for some reason that character decides to, hey, let's read some excerpts out of this book, which then unleashes this evil upon them. So it is, in the same vein, a lot like the original The Evil Dead, as you would call it. It tries to stay more straightforward rather than how kind of comical the series tends to go from after the first one, like Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. Groovy. Kind of have much more of a comedic vibe to them because of how outrageous and gory it can be. This tries to keep it a little more straightforward, despite it being extremely gory and such. There's a number of parts that you can't help but laugh because of how outrageous the gore is. But overall, this is still a fun time, I think. I enjoyed it when it first came out. I still think it's an enjoyable movie, and one of those few remakes that actually I think is fairly decent and shouldn't go unnoticed. The director, Fede Alvarez, I believe his name is, did a pretty good job of this, and kind of staying true to its original vision, but kind of just having more of this is straight up horrific stuff that's happening. I mean, one thing I really appreciate about this movie is the fact that characters get really messed up in it. Like no one goes untouched, for sure. There's a part towards the end where the character of Mia, she's running from one of her friends that turns into a deadite, and a sword is going through parts of the wall as she's trying to crawl through this one space of the cabin. And usually most movies, you're they just avoid the sword, but in this it's just it'll go through, and it hits her right across the arm here, and it's ow, that looks like it hurt a lot. And that's one thing I appreciate about this movie is it's not afraid to it tore its main characters up pretty badly, and that's one thing I appreciated watching this, because a lot of horror movies want to take the safe route. They don't want to do too much harm to its main characters. I would say, in that same vein, one major gripe I have, I think this is a movie that, while it's played straightforward, you shouldn't try to take it too seriously, because the gore is just absurd and out of this world, and that's super enjoyable, at least to me. But one thing I had a gripe with is the fact that there were several parts where one of the characters would have to do something crazy. For example, it pays homage to Evil Dead 2, where one of the characters saws her arm off, just like Ash did in Evil Dead 2. But it's funny because as she goes to saw her arm off, she doesn't make any noise or doesn't cry out in pain whatsoever. I mean, there's a number of parts where you can obviously tell they're in pain, but there's a number of parts where it's something really painful is happening to them, and they don't make any sort of noise whatsoever. The one girl goes to saw her arm off, and it's just and she you think, as you saw your arm off, you'd probably be in some agonizing pain, but she didn't do anything until after it was finished. Then she was screaming. But that's a very little nitpick. I mean, another one is the fact that it's like there is no, like, you know, character of Ash. A lot of people would say that the character of Mia was like the female Ash, but a lot of this movie, she's like possessed and comes as a deadite and is like, you know, terrorizing the rest of this group. And so, I mean, that's not a bad thing though. It's like they tried something different, and a lot of Evil Dead purists couldn't really see past that. But, you know, revisiting this years later, it's like I would have actually really enjoyed seeing a sequel to this movie. And this is coming from someone who is a fan, who's a big fan of the original movies. Like, I love Evil Dead 1, 2, Army of Darkness. I watched all the Ash vs. Evil Dead series, and that was a great series. And so, a lot of Evil Dead fans, it's like you can't really complain too much. I mean, you had some really great, you know, entries in this whole series, including the TV show. And the TV show happened because enough Evil Dead fans complained about there's no Ash in the movie, except at the very end of the movie, after the credits, there's a Ash Williams teaser where it just shows the side of his face and he goes, "Groovy." And that's about it. But, I mean, I can't really complain about this remake. I mean, there's many remakes that have happened that should have never happened. And I'm sure there were a lot of fans, at least towards this series, that were probably like, no, why are you remaking Evil Dead? That's such a stupid idea. But it led us to get Ash vs. Evil Dead for 3 great seasons, so I can't really complain about that. Plus, I kind of like the more straightforward, less, like, you know, comedic timing type stuff in this movie. Like, I like that they were just going for straight, like, this is really horrific stuff, and like people were walking around with like half a face. So, I mean, I really enjoyed this, and it's an easy 90-minute watch, so I really can't complain. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. If you guys really enjoyed watching this video and really like the Evil Dead remake, or are a big fan of just the Evil Dead series in general, just let me know in the comments. Leave your thoughts and opinions, and I really appreciate you tuning in to Love Bats in the Belfry. Sorry Kelly wasn't in this video, but I just wanted to do a short video of us, you know, revisiting the 2013 Evil Dead. So I really enjoyed it. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in a future video. Bye. Groovy.